Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And this is a story or a pattern of stories I don't cover that often. However, it is something that I think is extremely important, and that is this issue of transgenders when it comes to children. That is a huge issue. And somebody that's been covering that at length, who I respect, have known for well over a decade now at this point, and really been at the forefront of this issue, is Dan Dix of Press for Truth. And if you want to check out his work, you can go to either pressfortruth.ca, or I encourage you not only to go subscribe to his channel, forget about hitting the notifications. Do what you do for this channel. Star this up. You're getting at least a video a day, usually 7 to 8 a week. Sometimes he puts out 2. And they're on subjects that actually matter. So if you have that in your favorites, you can just go back every day and get real news. So Dan, why don't you talk not only about how you got involved in this issue, but the genesis of this issue and how it's almost taken over culturally in the last 5 or so years?
Sure. You know what, Jason? I've never had a problem with transgender people. The issue for me really started back in 2016 when the Canadian government decided to put out Bill C-16, which would criminalize Canadians for using the wrong preferred gender pronoun of a trans person. So, it really wasn't an issue for me until they tried to put pen to paper, and turn it into a law, and to actually police our language here. That's where I saw this as becoming extremely draconian, very bad for society moving forward. And so ever since then, there's been a progression. And now, as I warned about back then, and people called me crazy, now it's moved into the area of children wanting to become, wanting to transition into their, into a different sex. And we then got the introduction of Bill 89, which would say, if a parent refuses to accept the preferred gender of their child, the kid could be taken away from them by Child Protection Services. So that's how bad it's getting here in Canada. But I mean, we have cases popping up all over the world now. This is becoming a more common thing of children being pushed this idea that transitioning is what they need to do in order to deal with their gender dysphoria, they call it, which is really just a depression in teenagers, which a lot of kids get around that age. So this is a major escalating problem, and it's happening all over the world, Jason. And now the really scary thing is it's moving into the area of children, like what the article we're going to be talking about today is all about.
Well, absolutely. And even before we get into that article, when we're talking about children, we're also talking about parental rights being taken away. Not only your freedom of speech to express whether you believe that there are only 2 genders at all. I mean, let's be honest, during the 80s and 90s, and even all the way through like the early 2000s, 2010s, if you referred to somebody as a transvestite, that was the appropriate term. I mean, now that's even being looked upon as some kind of transphobic. But the bottom line is, no matter how many hormone blockers you take, no matter how much estrogen or testosterone is pumped into your body, your chromosome makeup will never change. It will never change. And as you said, it's now going into the realm of children, but parental rights. So why don't you just discuss some of those cases in Canada, and then we're going to get to this story.
Sure. I mean, that's a huge issue when it comes to children transitioning is what about the rights of the parents? I've been following a case very closely here in British Columbia where we have a father here in BC who is completely being pushed out by the courts, and he's actually had a gag order placed on him, so he's not even allowed to talk about this, but he is totally against the transition of his daughter, attempting to transition into a boy. He's been attempting to fight this in the courts. I've been going to these court cases. I've been sitting in and listening to the hearings, and I heard the testimony read out from what the young girl said about how she was influenced in school to do this. It was her, she first saw a video where they showed another trans girl, and she said, I want to get my hair cut short like the girl in the video that I watched at school. And so the teachers started referring her to counselors, and counselors referred her to doctors, and doctors started pushing this hormone therapy. This is all unbeknownst to the parents. So yes, there is a major attack on the family unit and the ability for parents to do the parenting that they need to do. But I think in these situations, Jason, we got to take a close look at these doctors who need to be accountable, because ultimately it has come down, in the case I've been following, to one in particular doctor who really pushed this on the child. He's the one who made the decision that, you know what, I think this would be better for you. But you know what, like you said, Jason, let's face it, it's impossible to change your sex. A lot of these kids are trying to fill a void. They're suffering from depression and various mental issues, and they want to seek, more inner joy and peace and happiness. It's what all human beings want. But guess what? They're not going to be able to obtain it if they try to go through a sex change, because it's literally impossible. So what we find is high rates of suicide in post-trans operation teenagers. That's going through the roof. And none of this is being looked at, Jason. They're just looking at, oh, the kid has a problem, let's put him on this. Well, what about the long-term effects of these? What is this having on the effects it's having on these kids? Because now we're having these kids who decided to do this at 13, 14, 15, who are now in their early to mid 20s, and they're saying, you know what? I made a huge, huge mistake, and I want to transition back. And that is now becoming popular because a lot of people are realizing this was pushed on me when I was a kid, and it's not something I actually wanted.
And in particular, this story is alarming to me because when we talk about doctors, when we talk about social engineering, and we talk about this case in particular, we're talking about the Tavistock Institute. Now, we're not going to get all the way down the rabbit hole with them, but they are a social engineering psychiatric unit that is the premier unit in the United Kingdom for suggesting this type of gender-based therapy. And we're looking at Kiera Bell. Now, this was a young woman who at 14 first asked her mother, some questions. And the mother was like, well, do you feel like you're a lesbian? Do you feel like you're a boy? But it wasn't until she took he, at the time it was a girl, took 3 meetings with the Tavistock Institute that took 1 hour. After those 3 meetings, she transitioned into he, and it talks about getting rid of her breasts, and it talks about how she doesn't know where she or he belongs because she's not a gender. She gets it. And this is the quote that summed it up for me right here at the end. I'm hoping I still have it highlighted because it was really towards the end and it hit me home. I'm just going to type it in because we do it live here. Pig. Okay, where is he? Guinea pig. This woman person felt like they were a guinea pig of the Tavistock Institute. Where is it? Man, this is going to kill me.
Well, that's an important point, though, is that they are being treated as guinea pigs. This is like experiments on children, really, because they obviously haven't studied long-term effects because this is relatively a new thing.
Yes, the quote, and I'll just go to my thing. You can say, I don't know if I will ever really look like a woman again, she admits. I feel like I was a guinea pig at the Tavistock Institute. And the Tavistock Institute, just so everybody understands, has a huge relationship with the CIA. The first document I found was a connection between Zbigniew Brzezinski, who, if you watch my channel, you know about. You know how he's one of the top globalists that actually created the Trilateral Commission on a plane ride to the Bilderberg Group with David Rockefeller. You can't make this up. And what's he connected to? The Jonestown murders. Weird. If I go back here, that's not the only document with the CIA and the Tavistock Institute. And ultimately, we could keep going. Take a look, and a lot of these are sanitized documents. They're all sanitized. The bottom line is, to me, this goes beyond even, I want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. It goes beyond the feminizing of a male culture that has been considered toxic. This is the transhumanist movement that eventually, Dan, they're going to say if you identify as a squirrel, hey, you can be that too. And because you're not really a human being, you're not really a boy or a girl or a man or a woman, you're just consciousness, bro. And at some level we are, but then they're going to trick you into wanting some kind of, Elon Musk Neuralink so you can interface with your computer. And if you can interface with your computer and you can change the way you look and your gender, why can't you just be a non-binary, non-human entity waiting for the singularity to come, Dan? And I
Yeah.
think that's often overlooked, because when you look at these pseudo-intellectuals, that's what they constantly push, is the progression of technology to the point where humans are obsolete.
Yeah, well, it's a really slippery slope that we're on here, Jason. As you said, I mean, we're going into new things. People can identify as whatever they want these days. That's why they keep adding letters to the LGBTQ2 plus plus whatever it is now. And the problem is, if someone now comes along and says, "Well, I want to identify as a toaster," well, the person who's been lobbying and campaigning so long to get people to accept their transition from male to female or female to male, they're going to say, well, who am I to deny their reality when I've been asking people to accept mine? And so therefore, we should all accept their reality that they should be able to believe they're a toaster. Well, this is a very slippery slope that just leads to absolute insanity. You get people now abusing the system. You get these trans athletes crushing the competition. You got guys like this Jonathan Yanif, who was recently, goes by Jessica. He's been recently arrested for assault. He's trying to use the system to abuse other people. I mean, these are the sorts of things that are happening. You got trans people, men going into women's bathrooms and, spying on little girls. I mean, these are all the things that we warned people about, that we saw these things coming, and they were like, guys, you're being too paranoid about this. People just want to be who they want to be. Let them be who they want to be. Well, no, this is a slippery slope. And in Canada, it's gotten so bad, as I said, they put pen to paper and are making it against the law, policing our language to misgender somebody. So it's absolutely brutal. And I'm not surprised that something like this might be coming at the hands of the Tavistock Institute. Let's face it, they want to re-engineer society. They want to destroy the family unit. And I think that's a big part of what this is all about: population reduction, control, reducing the family unit, and just destroying everything that God made beautiful on this earth.
And just to go back to you discussing bathrooms, why don't we take a person who's experienced word for it? Now, again, Kira talks about the fact that as he, at this point, got into the job world, he was accepted as a man at his job at this video game company. He used the male bathroom. But when Kira would go out and socialize, which wasn't much, they didn't know what bathroom to use. They didn't feel comfortable in a men's or woman's bathroom. That's not me saying it. That's someone who's actually lived the experience, that now feels that they've been taken advantage of as a teenager, and there is no going back. There is no going back, period. I mean, no matter what, thank God transitioning surgery on this, at least you still have your main genitals, but this woman's natural breasts are gone forever. They will never come back, Dan. This is forever.
Yeah. It's irreversible damage is what they're doing. I've seen other detransitioning trans people who, women transitioning to men who are realizing they made a mistake and transitioning back, who now have the extremely deep voice, and that they can't get that back. They can't switch that. That's something that's permanently going to be like that forever now. And again, this is being pushed on children who don't really understand the major ramifications of these things. And they're being left to deal with it, in their mid-20s and 30s, and sometimes even 20 years later after transitioning. Some studies show these people realize they're not finding the joy and the wholeness and the happiness that they were seeking back when they did that. They still have that emptiness inside them. And switching sexes is not the answer, because it's impossible. It can never potentially happen, so you're not going to fill that void. So this is why we need to stand up for the right of parents moving forward, to be able to do the right thing when they see the gender dysphoria, when they see the mental issues going on with their own child. They need to have the ability to be able to do what they should be able to do: parent their child. So, maybe we ought to push for the courts to just lay off these people, and leave these people alone and let parents make the decisions for these children, because they're just that, Jason, children.
And quite frankly, man, in a country now where they just made it illegal for 18-year-olds to smoke cigarettes, when you have to be 21 to have a vape pen or a cigarette or a drink, and they want to prescribe these blockers as low as 5 and 6 years old when a child is a child. And not only that, when your body is first going through puberty, you still may not know what your sexual preferences are, what you like out there. It is only when you are at the capacity of adult, when you've lived life, when you've been in these situations, that I feel that you should be able to make these decisions. But that's not the world we live in, because we do live in this socially engineered world of a predator class. Pressfortruth.ca is the website. And again, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're doing it, what, at least 7 times a week, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm pushing for that. Definitely 5, sometimes 6 or 7 a week. If you want to keep up to date with this case of the BC father going on here in British Columbia, definitely make sure you subscribe to me. I'm going to be following that one very, very closely, and we'll be putting out a pretty big expose on that sometime soon. So be sure to subscribe if you want to get all the updates for what's going on in Canada in regards to these similar cases.
Awesome, my friend. And we got Claire Lulls with the super chat, says, your brain is not developed until the age of 25. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, if you want to support me, I got the Rockfin. Rockfin.com/Jason Burmis. You're going to get 5 exclusive videos a week. That's 5 whole videos you will not get here. You don't just get my content. You get Ben Askren's content. You get Chael Sonnen's content, Ron Placone, Graham Elwood, The Convo Couch, and many others. It's a really cool platform. Go check it out. Remember, I am a documentary filmmaker. You can watch all my documentary films for free right here. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture in my documentaries playlist. And if you want to financially support me, we do it every month on the GoFundMe. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Dan Dix, thank you so much, my friend. We will see you soon, correct?
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
All right, we'll be back later. I'll see you guys on the flip side.